Hello, friends. Just in time for back to school, we are offering 40% off our Sleep Tight premium subscriptions. Enjoy ad-free listening, special shout-outs for the kids, and more of the calming stories you love. Visit sleeptightpremium.com or follow the link in our show notes. Thank you. Hello, friends, and welcome to Sleep Tight Stories. Puddles and Splash are back, and it is a beautiful summer day. All the animals are looking forward to getting outside to play after quite a few days of rain. When Puddles and Splash are on their way back from checking around the stream, they see Bubbles, the young cow, coming towards them, and they know something must be wrong. When Bubbles arrives, he explains that there are no apples left, and Splash and Puddles go to see. Betsy, the cow from the other farm, comes along and tells them she knows of a few other apple trees that she passed on her way to Farmer Vernon's farm. Splash and Puddles cannot believe what they are seeing and decide they need to find out what happened to all the apples. Puddles and Splash, The Mystery of the Missing Apples, Part 2. All the other animals that had come to see what had happened at the apple trees had left as Betsy and Puddles stood looking at Splash, dumbfounded at what they were just told. Isn't this highly unusual? I mean, I have never heard of foxes and raccoons being able to be near one another without something bad happening. Are you sure the tracks are foxes and raccoons? Betsy asked, not quite believing what Splash had seen. Raising his eyebrows in surprise, Splash said, I'm a dog and I know how to track. The tracks and scent are certainly foxes and raccoons. Oh, I didn't mean any disrespect, Betsy said, not wanting to upset Splash. But why? Why were these two groups known for their disagreements and squabbles suddenly working together? Puddles asked. That's a very good question, and I'm afraid I don't know the answer. Perhaps it's a short-term arrangement, but looking at all the tracks, I see nothing to indicate they were doing anything other than working together, Splash replied. Why are they so selfish? It would take a lot of effort to get all the apples. Couldn't they just have a few and leave some for others? Puddles asked. That is also a good question, for which I have no answer, Splash replied, looking disappointed. What a mystery, Betsy said. What should we do next? Puddles asked. Like I mentioned, I think I know a grove of apple trees in the forest out back. I stumbled upon them when I was roaming around after my old owner forgot about me. I could take you there. The only problem would be getting the apples back to the barn area. There might not be as much as before, but at least the animals can have their traditional treat, Betsy said. The forest out back is quite a journey that we don't often take, sighed Puddles. Yes, unfortunately, it is a long way from here, Betsy said. There won't be time for you to go out that far today. I wouldn't want you both roaming the back fields at dusk. You might get lost or injured. This is what we will do. I'm going to check in with Farmer Vernon and make sure that all the animals are safe today and this evening. Tomorrow, I should still be able to track the foxes and raccoons. It won't be as easy, but it's perhaps the most prudent course of action. The apples are gone, but perhaps when the foxes and raccoons understand the consequences of what they did, they won't do it again. And I will remind them of the farm rules, Splash said. What can we do to help? Puddles asked. First thing in the morning, after having your morning meal, after you check in with me, why don't you both head out to the backfield? That way, you should be back before the evening feed. If you find some apples, we can figure out a way to bring back as much as we can, Splash said as he got ready to leave. We could possibly use the small wagon that Farmer Vernon has in his utility shed, Puddles said. That's what I was thinking, Splash replied. Let's go and tell the other animals the news and try to resurrect the game of soccer. On a sunny day like today, it would be a shame to not play ball in the field. The next morning, the animals started to stir. The sun's rays were just beginning to warm the barn, with light coming through the cracks in the creaky old door. The cows were stretching and mooing, the chickens cooing, and the pigs snuffling and oinking. Puddles was awake before Chester could announce the start of the day. He was excited about the day's adventure and keen to find an answer to yesterday's mysterious collaboration between the foxes and raccoons. All the talk the night before was about the missing apples and how it was unusual for foxes and raccoons to do what they did. Everyone had a theory. The older pigs thought that perhaps it was some kind of apple pie conspiracy. The raccoons had the recipe, and the foxes had the chef. Together, they planned to make Prince Edward Island's largest apple pie. But first, they needed all the apples. Puddles knew foxes were clever, but he didn't think they were that clever. The cows thought they might have tried to settle their differences by creating the Apple Olympics, with events like apple tossing, apple juggling, and apple bobbing. In the spirit of competition, they had to borrow a few apples, or maybe all of them. The cows were always the most competitive animals on the farm and had the most vivid imaginations. The chickens had no theories and were mainly worried, as they were the most at risk from foxes and raccoons. They spent the night clucking away as they walked back and forth. "Cock-a-doodle-doo," yelled Chester. "Sun's a-rising, day's begun. Rise and shine, let's have some fun. Feathers fluff and hooves a-hop. Time to play a game, don't you stop." As Splash pulled open the squeaky barn door, the warmth of the sun came streaming in. It looked like another nice sunny day. The happy sounds from all the animals outside the barn, the bees, the bugs, and the birds confirmed that they too thought today would be sunny. "Oh, it looks like we are going to have our second great day in a row, and you are all excited, but let's be safe. We don't want any unfortunate accidents. Big animals first, and the rest need to be patient," barked Splash, who looked particularly serious this morning. After Betsy and Puddles finished their morning meal, Betsy had some fresh oats, while Puddles ate a feast of turnips from the trough. They hurried over to where Splash was sitting, watching over all the animals. "Did you both have enough to eat?" he asked. "I have 2 stomachs, so I never really feel full," Betsy replied, "but I can stop and munch on clover later." "I ate quickly again this morning, but I am sure I had enough," Puddles replied. "I went for a quick patrol last night before it got dark and found the foxes and raccoons' tracks heading off towards your old barn, Betsy. I was worried about letting you both go off on your own, but they didn't go in the direction you two will go in this morning. So Betsy and I will still go in search of the apple trees?" "Yes, just be careful of the muddy areas. I don't want to have to pull you out of the mud. I made that mistake once and don't want you two to experience it." Don't spend too much time munching on that sweet clover in the back field near the stream, Betsy." "Where will you be?" Puddles asked. "I'm going to follow their tracks and have a talk with them. Hopefully they will listen, and we don't have to bother Farmer Vernon." "Okay. Will we meet back here later this afternoon?" Betsy asked. "Yes, that should give us plenty of time. You want to be back before the evening meal so that we have time to discuss what we have found before dusk." Then they went their separate ways, with Betsy and Puddles heading towards the back fields and Splash following the tracks he found the day before. Farmer Vernon's farm was like many on Prince Edward Island, long and thin, running perpendicular from the shoreline in order to give as many landowners as possible access to the water. Farmer Vernon's farm was one of the larger of this type, as it was comprised of a couple of farms that had been bought by one owner many years before. Betsy and Puddles walked quickly through the fields at the back of the farm. It wasn't long before they arrived at a patch of sweet clover. While Betsy had a snack, Puddles stood watch and occasionally played with the butterflies and bees that were always in these fields. After Betsy had had enough to eat, they continued. Walking a bit faster now, which is always a challenge when you have short legs like Puddles, they noticed to their right a hill blanketed with wildflowers, with all kinds of colors, including hues of pink, yellow, and violet. Puddles was especially excited when he saw some dandelions. He tried blowing one, and Betsy chuckled as he ended up snorting more than blowing, scattering the fluffy seeds all over. The air grew cooler as they approached the forest in the distance, and the sounds changed too. Instead of the distant mooing and clucking from the farm, they heard the soft whispers of leaves, the gentle singing of birds, and the occasional chirp of squirrels. "Look," Puddles said, pointing with his tiny hoof. Just ahead, a small, crystal-clear stream meandered, its water sparkling in the sunlight. This was the stream that Splash had warned them about, and where the unfortunate stuck-in-mud incident had happened before. "Are you thirsty?" Betsy asked. "We could stop for a drink. I think we have time." "No, I'm okay, and I think it's best that we follow Splash's advice," Puddle replied. "The ground might still be soft and muddy." After they left the field containing the stream, they continued through the final gate that led to the large, unused portion of the farm that contained the forest, where Betsy said that she had seen some apple trees. Farmer Vernon's farm contained many fields, created by either a row of trees, fences with gates, or rivers and swamps like the one Puddles and Betsy just walked by. "There is the forest just ahead," Puddles said as they approached the rough area at the edge of the grassy field that bordered the trees. "Yes, finally," Betsy said with a somewhat tired voice. "It's been a while since I have walked this far in one morning. You must be tired, Puddles, as you have to work harder than I do." "Yes, but it's nothing that a tasty apple or three won't cure," he laughed. "Do you hear that?" Betsy tilted her ear toward a peculiar sound. It was too distant and unclear to know exactly what it could be. "It sounds like laughing or chirping or something." Curious, they ventured into the forest and slowly made their way toward the sound they had heard. Then it stopped. "I wonder what that sound was," Betsy said. "Likely just birds flying through the trees, or maybe squirrels," Puddles replied. Walking slowly in the same direction through the woods, they eventually came upon a small clearing full of apple trees they had walked so far to find. Though not yet fall, the ground was full of fallen, shiny red and gold apples, and the trees held even more, You were right, Betsy. There are apple trees here. And look at them all. Yummy, yummy. If we make regular trips, we should be able to have enough apples for everyone to enjoy a treat every week until it gets cold outside. And there are enough for us to have a little treat right now, Betsy said with a laugh. As they were munching on a few of the apples that had fallen on the ground, they heard a scuffle in the woods behind them. What was that? Puddles asked, his ears pointed and alert. I didn't hear anything. I was too busy chewing on a tasty apple, Betsy replied, looking around to see if there was any reason to be concerned. It's probably just the wind playing tricks on us, she said. Puddles returned to finishing his second apple when he heard a noise again. He stopped eating and turned around to see that they were surrounded by a group of snarling foxes and hissing raccoons staring at them. They didn't look very happy. Betsy? I think we have a problem. And that is the end of this part. Good night. Sleep tight.